Welcome back to Agent Training with JP Letnick, and in this video we're going to be talking about what happens to your offer if the subjects are not removed. Now that doesn't include all of them, it just means like one subject. And this could be that, the buyer didn't remove the subject just because they didn't want to, or it could also mean that, oops, you didn't have all the subjects in the subject removal form when you had signed off on it. So what happens when this happens? Well, let's show you. So if we go to this website here, when you're dealing with an offer and it has subjects and you're coming up to a subject removal date or you're on the date and a buyer needs to extend, and let's say the seller doesn't want to because assume they have a backup offer that's better. So they actually don't want the primary offer to remove subjects. Then they don't agree to an extension and the buyer can't remove subjects. That deal falls apart and the backup offer would take primary position. So that's a different situation. You could ask for an extension, but that doesn't mean it's guaranteed. So it's very important if you're on the buyer's end that you make sure that all your ducks are in a row to get subjects off on time. I know this is sometimes difficult because of financing and banks and appraisers. They all might be backed up. So it's sometimes out of your hands, but you have to do as best as you can to meet those deadlines because you might not get that extension and then your deal will fall apart. So on the off chance that you do actually get through the deal and everyone wants to remove subjects and you sign the subject removal form and one subject was missing. And I have an example of this. I was planning to do this video, and this just happened recently on someone else's deal. So we're just going to pull this up. I've redacted the contact information and the deal information, but to show you here that we had a financing, an inspection, a legal advice, and then there was also a tax notice, a city file, and strat insurance clause. But in the original offer, there was one subject that didn't have a title like this, and so it was missed by both the buyer's agent and the selling agent on the document for subject removals. So both parties signed off on the subject removal form, which wasn't necessarily required. Only the person that the subjects are for needs to sign off. But both parties signed off on it because we just wanted to make sure it was acknowledged. The day after it was realized there was actually one subject missing because it didn't have a title like this. It wasn't noticed when both parties had reviewed the documents. Technically, the deal died the day before because that subject hadn't been removed. Now, as per BC real estate law, you cannot revive a dead offer. So technically, that offer died. Some people would say, do an amendment, date it for the day before, get both parties to sign, and as long as both parties agree to it, then you're all good. Kind of. If it came to a point where that one party decided to back out of the transaction at the last minute and didn't want to complete, it could be used as a technicality in court that the offer had actually died, and a revival of a dead offer is not a legal and binding contract. So do not do that. What you need to do in these situations, and you can ask your broker, but this is the proper way of doing it if you don't want to take any risk, you have to rewrite the whole dang contract. That means whole new brand new contract. Got to make sure everything is identical except for like the dates. If you have subjects in there and you want to make sure that your client is perceived to have been protected, you got to have the same subjects in there. You have to have the subject removal form in there with the subjects being removed that day, and an amendment stating that the deposit, if it was already paid, in this example was, is now applicable to the new contract. So you would also need to do a new disclosure of expected remuneration because this is a brand new offer. So all of these things would need to be done. And hopefully both parties sign on all the documents because otherwise everything falls apart. So very, very, very important subject removal dates. Put them into your calendar. Set up a notification for yourself. Put them in your client retention form or whatever you're using to track your documents. Make sure that it is notifying you on subject removal date when they need to come off. Double check, triple check, quadruple check the original contract and the subject removal form to make sure that all the subjects are being removed so that nothing is missed, because it can become a big, big, big issue if a deal does die and you try to revive.